When it gets around to being right about November time outside, you'd best believe I'm listening to Opeth. One thing I've liked doing on this channel is talking about clever musical illusions. Most of these have been rhythmic. Here's a harmonic one. When I listened to this riff from the end of A Fair Judgment, before I learned it on guitar, I heard it as constantly descending at the end of each cycle, so that each loop started lower than the previous one. This isn't so crazy. Opeth does actually do this by detuning guitars at the end of Burden, though it sounds different. But alas, my hearing was incorrect. It doesn't actually descend. We start and end each cycle with the same low open string E minor chord. The riff is super minor sounding because we get nothing but the tonic minor chord and then power chords. As a side note, another way that metal harmony is different from tonal harmony is in how power chords work. For one, they all have parallel fifths, which is a no-no in strict voice leading. But the more important difference is that these power chords act as ways of strengthening individual notes, not really as chords. There are ways of filling out the sonic space while playing what are really single note lines. But anyways, I don't think I was being silly to hear a constantly descending chord progression. Instead, I think Opeth was being clever. Basically, we start with a big open string E minor chord, which feels like home at the start of the riff. However, by the middle and end of the riff, they subtly shift the emphasis to make it feel like F sharp, the second fret power chord, is the riff's tonal center. Then at the end of the riff, when we descend back to the open string E minor, it feels like we've broken through the floor to a new lower tonic, even though this is actually the same place that we started. The more nitty-gritty analysis goes like this. First, we get an E minor, which moves up the octave. This definitely feels like home. Then we get a descending diminished seventh arpeggio on scale degree 7, D sharp, C, A, F sharp, which acts like a dominant chord that wants to resolve back to E minor. In fact, we could have just done that to make a much shorter and more boring riff. We sit on the last note of this diminished seventh arpeggio, the F sharp, and gradually start to treat this as home instead of E minor. We get a descending motion to it, making the second descending figure in a row that has this F sharp as its goal after the arpeggio. This descending B flat A F sharp motion also breaks out of an E minor scale, which would have included a B natural instead of B flat. And it puts us in this B flat harmonic minor territory that's pretty far removed from E minor. After that, we get a motion that seems like it will give us a chromatic lower neighbor to F sharp. Because we've now descended to this F sharp 3 times in a row and spent so much time on it, we've started to feel like it's home. This last descent, which goes past the F sharp to the F natural, feels like it could resolve back up to the F sharp, which would give us another way of turning this into a neat and tidy riff, this time one that would start in E minor and end in F sharp. Instead, we get this enormous G, F sharp, E, or minor 3-2-1, leading us back to E minor. shifting our sense of center down by a whole step. So the whole thing sounds like this.
Nothing left here.
This false hearing is actually pretty cool. It's super metal and super in line with Opeth's wintry aesthetics to hear something implacably and ritualistically descending, dragging the chords down into the depths of a cold hell or something. Maybe we can even think of this as a first experiment into this that eventually culminated in the downtuned guitars at the end of Burden. But this also brings up a bigger point. A lot of times, the assumption is that music theory is a clarifying force which can help simplify apparently complicated musical surfaces. That's not what I'm doing here, but I think that what I am doing here is an equally important aspect of what music theory can be. Instead of dealing with what's actually going on in the music, I'm talking about ways of hearing it that, while they may be illusory, are actually also supported in what the notes are doing, and in fact lead to a more aesthetically interesting hearing. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please hit every button on this page that you can find on the way out. See ya.